This video is brought to you by Mubi, a curated streaming service dedicated to elevating great cinema from all around the globe. Get a whole month free at Mubi.com/Karsten. Hello, sunshine. Welcome to another episode of What I Watched This Month, April edition. I started this month with my 5 a.m. movie challenge, which I started with Schindlers List. This is a rare case of the first film I watched in a month still bouncing around in my head at the end of the month when it's time to write one of these videos. Having been intimidated by this one for a while, I can certainly say I had good reason to be. It's a movie that, once it really gets into the thick of its violence, doesn't come up for air very often. An effect made that much more harrowing when applied to Spielberg's inviting style of filmmaking. It exists on the opposite side of the spectrum as something like Zone of Interest, which feels more like a counter-response to this approach, but that's not to say it doesn't work. It is a big, sprawling epic, but as far as those types of films go, this is by far one of the most personal examples I've ever seen. Then I watched The Notebook. Was pretty let down by this. Really expected to come around to it, but never really did. Found the Alzheimer's elements to be way too sappy. The romance was on and off with the chemistry. Really, it's just a bit bland, honestly, in every way you look at it. It's serviceable, definitely not ever offensively bad, but turns out this was worth skipping all along. Then I watched Dancer in the Dark, one of Lars von Trier's essentials. This is a certified bad time, and not in the way that gets me excited about it. At a certain point, this film really just started to piss me off. Don't get me wrong, I still enjoyed it and can recognize its unpleasant aspects as just being the point. It's a truly nihilistic film, but I just simply feel like Lars has done this more interestingly in other works. This and Breaking the Waves pair really well together, and that's a much stronger, much more emotionally compelling version of what this is. That said, I do love what Bjork is doing here. She's the absolute highlight, and those musical sequences really are one of a kind. Very bizarre experience, not what I was expecting. Then I watched Unforgiven. It's taken me an embarrassingly long time to get around to Clint Eastwood's masterpiece here, but we made it, and damn was I swept away by this. Not only is its murky tone so easy to sink your teeth into, but the narrative here really stands apart for what I'm used to in the Western genre. Rarely is a filmmaker able to make something ice cold and completely transparent at the same time. That's the feat of someone with a powerful understanding of tone, who can also communicate an emotion or feeling clear as day to the viewer. Unforgiven is a raw and critical take on the Western genre, one that makes you feel like it should be the last film of its kind, which, don't get me wrong, we still get Westerns, but it kind of was, in a way. Very good movie, a clean-cut masterpiece, great Gene Hackman performance as well. Then I watched the Minecraft movie. Yeah, I don't know, man. It was bad, obviously. It was hideous, soulless, desperate, disposable. There is some sort of human element coming out of this, though, through Jack Black and Jason Momoa, and the little bits and pieces of Jared Hess you get here and there. And that makes this just a little more charming than something like the Super Mario Bros. Movie, which feels so made in a lab. Bars on the floor, if you can't tell. Everyone deserves better. We shouldn't be celebrating this at all, but I guess I'm glad the kids are having fun. And I watched Dick. Speaking of fun, this is one of those classic 90s romps that should be talked about more often, but just isn't. Really great premise about two teenage girls who accidentally get involved in the Watergate scandal. Hilarious performances from two actresses who just don't usually do this kind of performance. Maybe I'm only tapped into the depressing stuff, and that's all I really got for Dick. It's not the best of its kind, but it's very good at what it does. Fantastic ending. All things you can say about Dick as well. Then I rewatched Nowhere. This is like the fourth rewatch at this point. I didn't mean to watch this right before going into production on my short film, but this did give me the drive I needed to push through the shoot. Every time I watch it, I feel like a fire is lit under my ass. I leave so inspired. The amount of depth, humor, and beauty that Greg Araki puts into this, for it to be just over 70 minutes, is beyond impressive. Makes you want to go out there and put your all into something. If you haven't seen this, you should really check it out. Then I watched Fruitvale Station. This is Ryan Coogler's debut feature, one I wanted to check out before diving into Sinners, and damn, this man has never really missed, has he? I know we're likely never going to get a small character-driven indie like this from him again, but damn is he great at it. It's a film where the camera feels like it just kind of exists in the room with the characters, where certain scenes play out almost like a documentary, which makes for some incredibly heartfelt moments and some absolutely devastating ones too. The choice to start this film with what it starts with gives you the underlying dread throughout, even in those heartfelt moments. You never really feel at peace in any scene. Every hug and moment of connection feels so significant. He's made better films, sure, that we'll discuss in literally 10 seconds, but this has to be one of his most heartfelt that I've seen. It's just a very tender way to kick off an iconic career. Then I watched Sinners in 70mm. I already made my video on this, but I want to highlight Miles Catton as Sammy, who I completely missed in my proper review for the film. He's just incredible. He has a voice built for the movies, and I can't wait to see what he does next. It says a lot that in a cast full of legends delivering top-tier performances, he fits right in despite being a newcomer. The film as a whole is one that just keeps getting better. Some of you noticed I did bump it up half a star, and that's because the more I think about it, despite the clunkiness of the third act, part of me believes maybe the mainstream studio release of it all made me believe there's a clear-cut way of doing third acts to a film, but maybe like every other aspect, the film is simply going about it a little differently, and as long as it's actually saying something of substance in doing so, I don't see much of a problem with this clunkiness. I still don't love the Marvel-y moment, but whatever. Then I watched Destiny's Son. Watched this one on the Criterion 24/7 channel. It's a samurai revenge film clocking in at just 70 minutes, and for its runtime, this brings a surprising amount of depth to its lead samurai. Raizo Ichikawa's performance is the most exceptional part about this otherwise pretty cut and dry revenge story. Pretty brutal and straightforward take on death as well. That's all I really got. Then I watched Wagon Master. I feel like I'm about to have a John Ford summer. I was really in the mood for something exactly like this, which made it hit just right. It's a film about a group of Mormons traversing across the country to a new home and what happens when they pick up and run into a series of delinquents. It's one of those films without a main character that, rather than telling a clear-cut narrative, paints a vivid picture of a time and place, in this case one about America. Sound familiar? I'm not going to lean too into that Nashville comparison, as this is at the end of the day very much a Ford picture, but these are my favorite kinds of films, and to see it applied to a Western was very interesting. It turns out it works incredibly well. I've always seen Ford's work as being a commentary on the country and its history, distilled into stories about small groups of people. So in a way, this is the ultimate John Ford movie, a thesis statement in a way to what he has to say as a filmmaker. Really enjoyed it, if you can't tell. Can see myself revisiting it quite a bit throughout my life. Then I watched My Dinner with Andre. Saw this one in a theater, and I'm not sure I'd want to see it any other way. Not only is watching two guys have dinner with a crowd of people a pretty funny thing to realize you're a part of, but it's just not the kind of movie I can see myself as invested in if I watched it at home. To put it simply, I was very moved by this. Having been knee-deep in pre-production for most of this month and feeling overwhelmed by stress, burying myself in my phone and mind-numbing activities to ease that anxiety, the brain felt particularly rotted this April. And My Dinner with Andre snapped me out of it, in a way. It reminded me to just sit back and reflect a bit on my own life. The film is a dense exploration of two different ways of living, and it's much more than what I'm chalking it up as here, but to me it really boils down to asking yourself, are you living the life you want to be living? And it's not saying you should be doing it another way, but asking yourself to come at this question from your own perspective, not anyone else's. And for that small takeaway, I'm pretty grateful for this one. It's hard not to talk about this one without sounding pretentious and like Ethan Hawke in Before Sunrise, but that's kind of the point. I think it makes you feel okay talking in that way, because we need to think like that every now and then. Then I watched The Match Factory Girl. It's just another Aki Kaurismäki movie. I mean, he's back on his usual bullshit here. I kid. In all seriousness, this one is pretty interesting for him. Usually in his work, I expect his characters to find hope in a bleak world through romance and connection, but here she just can't catch a break. And I love how it goes about this less in a making the most out of a horrible world way, and in more of a how can I break the cycle of this horrible world way. In that way, it's really one of his most layered films, in my opinion. Certainly his least crowd-pleasy, if there is such thing as a crowd-pleasing Kaurismäki film. Then I watched He Got Game. So underrated. No, this is not one of Spike's cleanest films. It definitely hits a bit softer next to Malcolm X or Do the Right Thing, but this is much more layered than anything I've seen from him. Thorough exploration of basketball, the politics surrounding it, fatherhood, addiction, sex, religion, and that's just what's on the surface. Spike is able to weave all these themes together pretty smoothly, all things considered. The editing here is jumpy like it is in all of his work, but it feels particularly expressionistic for what I'm used to from him. It's a very colorful, almost abstract film at times. Denzel is incredible, but I have to highlight Ray Allen, who really surprised me. I saw after the fact that people do not like his performance, which is just crazy to me. I thought he played him perfectly. Then I watched Warfare. Man, I can't tell you how upset I am that I was not into this. Strap in, because it's going to be a bit of a longer one. I haven't been the biggest Alex Garland fan for a while now, but a lot of people I trust who also were in the same boat were giving this high praise, and I went in thinking maybe this one will hit particularly hard, and I just don't get it. I mean, I get that this dry, simple, narrow-minded approach is meant to pair with the pointlessness of war itself. I get it. We shouldn't know anything more than what's on screen because these men don't either. The narrative should be treated like the form itself, the sound design, the claustrophobic cinematography. It's all meant to make us feel as much like we're in there with these men as possible. It succeeds at that too, which is why I couldn't call it a straight up bad movie. The technical aspects are really quite impressive, but I did walk away completely empty, frustrated, and most of all, unchanged. If pointlessness is what Garland is after here, the film did succeed at what it wanted to do, but damn, is that an uninteresting place to start. I also can't say it entirely succeeds at this sterile, gruesome approach it wanted. The beginning of this film feels painfully gimmicky and trying really hard to subvert your expectations, very shoehorned in. Certain lighting choices feel purely like attempts to aestheticize the material. It's going after this raw depiction of war, but at the same time has all these weird stylish elements that feel like it's trying to impress you with its filmmaking. It feels backwards in a way. I don't know, it's just one of those movies similar to Civil War where conceptually I think it's interesting, but when watching it I keep running into issues with it and I end up walking away mad. I don't know. If anything, this made me actually like Civil War a lot more for just how much more it was doing next to this. Not my cup of tea. I also started watching the new season of The Rehearsal. I'm weirdly scared of wherever this season is going. I have to say, I loved The Curse for what it was, but I do think Nathan Fielder toying with what is and isn't real under the style of reality TV is much more interesting and bizarre. To put it simply, fantastic. I also started watching Common Side Effects. Oh man, what a beauty this is. Not only is the animation super unique and charming, but everything this has to say about the pharmaceutical industry is surprisingly profound. I'm shocked a show like this hasn't been made before, or maybe I'm just really forgetting something right now, but really enjoying this so far. If you haven't watched it yet, I highly recommend. And hey, that's what I watched this month. What did those pretty little eyes of yours watch? Let me know. Thanks for watching. Go watch these films and form your own opinion, and if you're looking for something to watch next month, you should check out this week's sponsor, Mubi. Mubi is a curated streaming service, a place to watch beautiful, interesting, and incredible cinema. From iconic directors to emerging auteurs, there's always something new to discover. With Mubi, each and every film is hand-selected by its team of curators. Discover the best cinema at your fingertips, streaming anytime, anywhere. I know that it's hard to find what to watch each night. I mean, there is an overwhelming amount of cinema out there. And if you're looking for a place that can help guide you through that process, through some really amazing curation, Mubi is the place to go. I've discovered some all-time favorites over at Mubi. I cannot recommend it enough. If you're looking for a place to start, I do recommend First Cow. I fear it's going to be a Kelly Reichardt summer, and if you're looking for a good place to start, this is the place. You can try Mubi for free at mubi.com/Karsten. That's mubi.com/Karsten for a whole month of amazing cinema for free.